This is the insider trading saga for the NBA.
Two schemes naming more than 30 people, according to charging papers, including 4 well-known mafia families in New York City.
Your winning streak has ended. Your luck has run out.
I haven't seen not one photo, not one image, not one media report coverage about anybody leading to the mafia. Now, maybe it's just me, but the media is definitely making sure they blast these 3 dudes' faces all over media.
Gambling is huge. Why do you think the NBA and all of these organizations now are being involved with gambling? Money. Period. Huge. The more access you give players, the more trouble they're going to get in.
All right, y'all. The NBA gambling scandal just got even more insane. And the FBI is now naming names of mafia families involved in the operation and the players who are caught up in this. They're talking about the Gambino, Genovese, and Bonanno families. The same crime syndicates that used to run the New York underworld are now showing up in a case tied to professional basketball.
But as you now know, individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years.
But here's what they're not telling you. So the mainstream media is acting like it's just a few bad apples. But the more you look at these indictments, the more it starts to feel like those players and coaches, Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones, are just the tip of the iceberg. And let's not act like something like this can happen without the higher-ups at the NBA knowing. The NBA is literally putting gambling sponsor ads on the baseline, on the floor, in every commercial, in every sponsored segment, and on NBA League Pass. But now they want to act surprised when players are engaging in the same thing the NBA actively promotes. So Adam Silver claims he's disturbed by the gambling scandal. Meanwhile, damn near every NBA podcast is brought to you by DraftKings and FanDuel. ESPN has a gambling app, ESPN Bet, and they have entire segments and shows dedicated to promoting gambling. And it's not just basketball. The NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL all have partnerships with gambling companies. So that's the real story here. Not just who got caught, but who didn't. Ever since the U.S. Supreme Court legalized sports betting across most of the country in 2018, the NBA has been all in. They partnered with betting apps, slapped gambling sponsors on everything, and just last year alone, sports betting companies spent $52.1 million on advertising during televised NBA games. And once that much money starts moving around a sport, it's only a matter of time before the wrong people smell opportunity. And now more than 30 people have been indicted, including current and former NBA stars. According to the FBI, there are 2 separate indictments, one focused on illegal sports betting and the other on rigged underground poker games. Current player Terry Rozier, Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups, and former player Damon Jones have all been arrested. The NBA has confirmed that both Rozier and Billups have been placed on unpaid leave, and the league claims they're cooperating fully with investigators.
Gambling. Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier and Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups will not be paid while on leave of their absences from their teams. That's according to our Shams Charania, and he joins us now. Shams, can you explain the league's decision-making process here?
Malika, the NBA talked to all parties involved, the Heat, the Trailblazers, other officials, and landed on the decision today to pull both Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups' salaries. It's essentially, Malika, an unpaid administrative leave. So that's $26.6 million for Terry Rozier and $7 million for Chauncey Billups.
But here's where it gets real crazy. Authorities claim that several members of prominent New York City mafia families were also taken into custody as part of the same operation. According to officials, Rozier allegedly faked an injury to manipulate betting outcomes, collaborating with others to place wagers based on secret information about athletes and teams. Investigators say the group placed hundreds of thousands of dollars on fraudulent bets. And then in a separate but connected case, Billups and others are accused of running rigged poker games backed by organized crime figures. They scammed victims out of millions by using special glasses and contact lenses, X-ray poker tables, and pre-marked cards, essentially guaranteeing that the house always won.
Poker games. Billups and another former player, Damon Jones, are accused of working with the Mafia, using their celebrity status to lure wealthy people to illegal poker games that were rigged.
Scam.
The technology allegedly used in the scheme is like something out of Mission Impossible. The FBI says the suspects used special glasses and contact lenses that could read invisible markings on cards. Casino security expert Sal Piasante showed us some of the technology.
I can't tell you what that top card is, but if I pop in contact lenses, or if I'm wearing my poker glasses, when you look at that card through that filter, you'll see what that card is.
The FBI says the suspects also used card shufflers that were rigged and used what's described as an X-ray poker table that allowed them to see face-down cards through the felt on the table. They also allegedly used what's known as an analyzer. It looks like a cell phone, but when placed in front of a deck of cards, it uses a hidden camera to determine which player will win, no matter how well the deck is shuffled.
This deck is marked invisibly on the side with a barcode. So when this deck gets shuffled and gets placed onto the table, this camera right now is scanning those cards, and it's going to tell you automatically who's going to win.
The device correctly predicting the hand closest to the device will win.
And you win with a full house, 3s and 5s.
Experts say the sophisticated scheme shows that the Mafia has modernized.
But there's still a lot we don't know. Officials haven't publicly identified the victims, and we don't yet know how any of the defendants will plead. And we also don't know who else might be involved. Other players, celebrities, or high-profile figures could be caught up in the fallout. Now let's talk about those Mafia families. The FBI claims that multiple members of La Cosa Nostra, including the Gambino, Bonanno, Lucchese, and Genovese Mafia families, were involved in the scheme. The same families that built empires off illegal gambling, extortion, and racketeering, going back decades.
Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Cosa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
Now, when the feds talk about La Cosa Nostra, they're talking about the original blueprint, one of Italy's old-school mafia networks that gave birth to the American-Italian families we know today. In New York, that power got split between 5 families, the same 5 that have basically run the city's underground since the 1930s, operating everything from rackets to unions. And now, decades later, the FBI says 13 members and associates from 4 of those families have been indicted in this NBA mess. A lot of people thought that the mafia's influence died out back in the 80s, when the government started locking them up and corporations started replacing the streets as the new power centers. But this case shows these families didn't disappear. They just adapted. And if they're back in the mix here, it means their reach might be a lot stronger than anyone wanted to admit. And according to the indictment, the mob wasn't just placing bets. They were running parts of the operation, controlling underground poker games across New York and Miami, fixing who won, and laundering the money through fronts that looked clean. And the key part is that they allegedly used NBA players and coaches as face cards. You put a respected coach or a recognizable player at the table, and suddenly everyone feels safe to throw down big money. But obviously, those tables weren't fair games. The whole thing was rigged from start to finish. But there's another part that the mainstream coverage keeps skipping. They make it sound like the mob infiltrated the NBA, when really, it looks more like the two sides might have shaken hands. Billups, Rozier, and Jones are front and center. But think about how big the NBA is. The legal betting deals, the corporate sponsors, the data-sharing partnerships that are supposed to monitor integrity. How can the mob slide this deep into a sport that claims to track every play, every stat, every dollar, unless the people running the league either look the other way or they're sitting closer to this thing than anyone's ready to say out loud? The prosecutors are saying the players allegedly shared private info about lineups, injuries, playing minutes, and other stuff sports books can't access in real time. And apparently, the status of LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Damian Lillard have all been leaked in this way. The bets were placed through intermediaries, fake accounts, and sometimes overseas sites that don't flag suspicious patterns. And when the games went as expected, the payouts hit fast. But to pull this off at that scale, you need connections in both worlds, the criminal underground and the corporate one. Someone has to process those transactions, move the money, and make sure it doesn't trigger alerts inside the betting systems that the NBA itself helped promote. And if we're being honest, the NBA hasn't been about basketball in a long time. It's about branding, partnerships, and markets. The league pretty much turned itself into a lifestyle product. And look at what's happened over the past decade. TV ratings have dropped, ticket prices have exploded, and Adam Silver says you should just get used to watching highlights if you can't afford tickets.
There's a huge amount of our content that people can essentially consume for free. I mean, this is very much a highlights based sport, so, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you name it, any service, the New York Times for that matter, to the extent that your content is not behind a paid firewall. There's an enormous amount of content out there. YouTube, by another example, that is advertising based, that consumers can consume.
And then on top of all this, fans talk more about trades and social media drama than the actual games. So it's not surprising that gambling slid right on in. And you can partner with betting companies and then act shocked when people inside the game start seeing themselves as part of that hustle. Now, the FBI is calling this betting scandal organized crime, but fans online are saying the entire league is organized crime, just with a better PR department. Because you've got billion-dollar franchises partnering with betting companies, politicians, and media outlets, all to squeeze more out of a game that used to belong to the fans. One fan on X wrote, "The NBA is very concerned about the multiple arrests made as a result of the FBI's sports gambling code. Use code multiple arrests for a 30% profit boost on a 3-leg parlay with DraftKings, the official gambling partner of the NBA." And another user said, "The NBA is involved in far more criminality than gambling and sports rigging. The NBA is also working with more criminal entities in addition to mafia crime families. Think rogue authorities, bad actor operators, and foreign intelligence agencies. This is just the tip of the iceberg." Well, now I want to hear how you feel about all this. How deep do you think this goes? Do you believe the NBA didn't know? And do you think this ends with a few arrests? Or are these just the first pawns to fall? Drop your thoughts below, and I'll keep you posted on any new updates.